Good afternoon. The August 12th edition of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in session. First item on the agenda is the minutes from the July 15th meeting.
Move approval.
Second. A motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there comments, questions? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. Next item is the consent docket.
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
Second. Have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Are there matters on the consent docket to be discussed separately?
Mr. Chairman and trustees, I'd like to draw your attention to item 3I on the consent docket, and that involves using goats to mow the Hefner Canal. It's a test. We're working with Langston University on a program that's been very successful in Stillwater, for example. The canal is very difficult to mow. We hope that if the test goes well, we can move to some of our other areas where we have heavy underbrush that goats can help remove that we can't really mow. Again, it's a test. Mr. Hammonds will be the person responsible for that. He's here if you have specific questions for him. But it's a
Well, I live over near Kids Lake, and if the goats are ever in the neighborhood, could I borrow them for about a couple hours? Because it would save me a lot of work.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, as a goat owner, I will tell you that they're great animals. In addition to mowing for you, they are great fun to watch too. So that's a good thing. There is one item I wanted to comment on, and we don't need to. It's just a comment I wanted to make that the Baxter Field Flying Club that's at Draper Lake is on the agenda to redo their runway and some other things. The runway is going to be expanded so that model jets can take off and land there. So, kind of a neat.
Is that code for drones?
Is that what?
Is that code for drones?
I don't know. Well, they're kind of like drones. They are drones. They are drones. But I don't think that's what it's about. But it's a great Sunday afternoon exercise to go over and watch them fly those little planes. But when this is finished, they'll be able to fly jets in and out of there.
This will be our third jet airport in Oklahoma City, is that right?
Right. There aren't any goats out there. We could name it after one of my goats, maybe. Anyway, enough. Any comments further? Voting on the consent docket? Consent docket is approved. Next is a concurrence docket.
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
Second. Motion and a second to approve it. Are there comments or individual things to be considered individually? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket is approved. Next item, item 5A. A1 and 2, authorization and authorizing of the consent order and authorizing the payment of it for a fish kill.
Move approval of both items.
Second. Motion and a second to approve item 5A. Comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to describe this issue for you a bit. It's always painful when we're making a payment and fines because of a fish kill. It's a statutory requirement. Any time wildlife are damaged, particularly fish, this is the outcome. We had a spill of unknown origin into the North Canadian wastewater treatment plant on or about April the 20th. We plan to work with ODEQ to better define ways we might watch for what was coming into the wastewater treatment plant. What we know technically is that the microorganisms we cultivate to remove ammonia from the wastewater were killed off, but they're very sensitive, and there are a number of chemicals that might have been the culprit that aren't otherwise harmful in the environment. So we have some homework to do. Our industrial treatment folks have worked at some lengths to identify possible sources of those chemicals without success. But we're on a path to work with DEQ about that. We think it's important. It is a rare occurrence. From my perspective, is a one of so far, but we'll continue to work on that and apologize to ask you for a fine.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Voting on item 5A, 1 and 2, approved. Item B, Joint resolution. Well, maybe you can explain it, Marcia.
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, should we read anything into this that we're the only ones here approving this particular change and our colleagues are not here today?
I don't know. They're off, they are both off learning how to better deal with emergencies. Maybe they think this will create one if we pass this.
Well,
So this is the system development charge portion of the work completed in your cost of service study. Councilors Keith and Mann have put those into an ordinance.
Any questions or comments?
no.
Voting, please. It's approved. We do not need executive session, I understand.
Move we strike.
Motion and a second to strike. Item stricken. Items from trustees. General manager reports.
Mr. Chairman and trustees, we brought you a couple of general manager reports just really quickly. We brought you the first time as an update on procurement of the West Elm property. We've purchased an additional 60 acres and have 19 acres in progress to purchase. We are on the cusp of still of 1,000 acres left to procure for the West Elm Reservoir, but certainly have made good progress. Performance that give you a general indication of our income for fiscal year 2014 are also attached. They show you generally that water income as well as expenses were down. The water income was down a gross of $1.5 million. Wastewater income down a gross of $2.4 million. That's out fairly evenly with the expenses a little bit. We have slightly lower numbers than overall cash reserves, but despite the drought, it was actually for the water and wastewater system a relatively moist year.
How are our lake levels doing?
Lake levels are okay. The Hefner's down about 4.5 feet. Again, great for this time of year. Lake Kenton has not recovered despite heavy rain in western Oklahoma. There's just very little movement on Lake Kenton. In the southeast, we've had rain over in the last 24 hours. Leaky Creek is completely full. We're pumping from Leaky Creek and have for some time into Lake Atoka, where we're still down about 5.5 feet. But overall, excellent for starting the wet part of the fall season. Great forecast for a wet fall also. Very hopeful. We typically get good rains in September and October timeframe, is the way I remember it. The forecasts are for above normal rainfall through next spring.
Okay. You had mentioned before that Canton was, maybe there was some recharging going on in Canton, and so the water levels would come up and then sort of settle again. Are we still seeing that? Do we think that's what's going on?
Yes. Yes, I think we lost a couple of inches to evaporation when we were back up in the 90-degree range and had some winds up there, but it appears to be chronic. We haven't been at this position with Canton, as far as I know, since the 50s.
Okay.
So it's hard to give it context.
Okay. Thank you.
Marcia, all 6 lakes were at about 62%. Is that about right?
Yes, 62% available, that's over 70% total.
Right.
So over a year and a half of volume.
We also have we have both these reports. Are there any comments you want to make on either one of them?
Move we receive the reports.
Second.
Motion and second to receive the reports. Any comments or any that you want to make on them beyond what's in the... I'm not trying to get you to. Any citizens to be heard? Hearing none, we're adjourned.